Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are made available absolutely free by Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the link in the upper left-hand corner of the page that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, and it's a tool I've been using to great effect in my life for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional state I experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each one of us has been given. And that also on that website you can just click and download. It's a simple PDF file download, the actual worksheet process itself. Download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. It's absolutely free. No need to sign up for a mailing list or give them any info. Just click and download. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through that actual tool. And some of those audio files that have been curated out by Jeannie Ryce are testimonials that people have called in to give about how the powerful, positive effects of actually applying that tool in their life have been accruing or adding up. So that list of audio files can serve as a tutorial for you if you listen to them repeatedly, and you can learn to master this tool and continually improve the benefits you get from applying it in your life. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and you'll be able to get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often because it usually provokes comments, questions, stimulates comments or questions or testimonials. And if you have any of that, you can call us at 563-999-3581. When you call that number and press 1, it will put a little question mark by your phone number, and I will announce you by your area code, and we can have a conversation. We've also agreed to do the Course in Miracles lessons from the workbook this year, and that puts us on the 209th day of the year, and today continues the review. Lesson 209 is a review of Lesson 189, and Lesson 189 reads, I feel the love of God within me now. We are asked to remind ourselves at the beginning and end of each lesson for this review, I am not a body, I am free, and I am as the Creator created me. And as we remind ourselves of that, the commentary for this lesson, as brief as it is, I feel the love of God within me now. The love of God is what created me. The love of the Creator is everything I am. The love of the Creator proclaimed me as its offspring, and the love of creation within me sets me free. I am not a body, I am free, for I am as the Creator created me. That's the lesson for today. We're also doing the Course in Miracles experiment lessons from Pam Grout's book, The Course in Miracles Experiment, and her chapter 209 is titled, Reality is Up for Grabs. There's a Zen saying that says, a good doctor can cure your disease. Only a great doctor proves you were never sick. Pam writes, when my friend Jennifer was coming off hip surgery, she focused not on the pain and not on the inconvenience, but she focused on the fact that every single day her body creates 500 million new cells. With all those new cells, and yes, my body generates that many too, so does yours, there's absolutely no reason I have to be the same today as I was yesterday. The real question is, what do I choose to communicate to those new cells? The options, according to her friend Jen, were welcome to pain and misery, or welcome to the party of vim, vigor, and vitality. I couldn't say for sure, but I thought that Jen looked at least 5 years younger. Speaking of the pharmacopoeia in your mind, here's another miracle story from a reader named Kelly. Kelly writes, my body gives me the hard proof that law of attraction principles are real and absolute. Not only do I bless my food, I bless my body. I have a daily ritual where I look in the mirror and say, I love you. You are so beautiful. Thank you. And then I hug myself and I talk to every single cell saying, thank you, cells. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I started this when I realized that each of us is our own personal universe commanding all these cells. Essentially, what we speak, what we believe, they act as God or creator to those cells. When I first started this practice many years ago, the excess weight I had been carrying melted off. People asked me what I was doing, and I would give them the utterly confusing answer, quote, just loving myself, close quote. Well, that's not what they wanted to hear. They wanted to hear 60 minutes of cardio every day, followed by juice fasts and eating only cabbage. Should we tell them, Kelly, about Lesson 209, about how love sets us free? So that's Lesson 209. I feel the love of creation in me now. And it's also the Course in Miracles Experiment Lesson 209 from Pam Grout. So we have 50 minutes left, plenty of time for a comment or question. 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. We had a support group last night. We had a couple brave souls that joined us. And we just had conversation and discussing various people's issues, and then I did a worksheet. Now, I mentioned, I believe, earlier in the week that I got an email over the weekend, and the interpretation I placed on the email resonated a lot of anger, rage, is the actual word I used for the worksheet process. And I knew that I shouldn't respond to the email until after I had dismantled the rage, or at least calmed down. So I didn't. I waited until the next day to respond, and I was able to use some EFT tapping and get myself in a better mindset. And then I responded to the email in what I would consider was a very calm and professional manner, very matter of fact, to the point. And I also knew that that wouldn't be the end of the story for me unless I figured out which tools I was going to use to access and dismantle either the hurt or the fear or the sadness that my rage was hiding from me. So last night, I mentioned that I had a worksheet that I could do, and we had some discussion, and then eventually somebody said, okay, Tim, do that worksheet. So I did the worksheet last night on the idea of rage coming up when I simply read an email. And it wasn't an attack email, it wasn't directly overtly attacking. It was an email that was indicating that I had made a misstep professionally. So here's the worksheet. Since no one has a hand up, no comments in the chat room, the worksheet is the premise: my essential nature, my human life, my very being is this energy of love and creation. The goal of this worksheet process is to empower me to remove whatever fear and or hostility-based realities are blocking my view of that truth, and return me to my ability to have the direct experience of myself as the energy of creation expressing in form 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round. So I, Tim, who am this energy of love, I'm experiencing the emotion of rage, righteous indignation and rage. My upset level at the beginning of the worksheet, I rated it at an 8. It was very intense, but it wasn't so intense that I acted from it. So I wouldn't put it at a 9 or a 10, where I got so triggered that I responded in anger and then I had to, withdraw. So it's an 8 out of 10 intensity in anger. And the worksheet reminds me that any hostility or fear come from internal corrupt data and indicate my mind's use of sustained incoherence. Now, sustained incoherence means doing the same thing over and over again without getting the results I want, but continuing that process. So I'm using a very ineffectual process called sustained incoherence to build an internal construct that validates or rationalizes my rage. When I'm in denial about how I create my own emotions, my brain, my carbon-based memory, is caused to displace my experience of myself as love, as this essence of creation. And it tells me the lie that someone or something outside of me is causing my emotions. In this case, it was a person named Sue who sent me an email challenging something I did in my business practice. So the worksheet reminds me to take a breath and remember that if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. And it reminds me of this wonderful probing question. If Sue is the one with the problem, why am I the one with this rage and this pain? And then the next step of the email or of this worksheet asks me to specify my thoughts. It says, the truth is, only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. So the thought that I'm using for this worksheet to cause rage is, she's nitpicking and doesn't trust me. The punishment thought that the worksheet asks for is, I wanted to shut her out. And I did not, at this point, have a punishment thought for myself. So the second step in the worksheet asks me to choose love, choose to honor truth, capital T truth, what actually is, and to willingly face and process out all of the dis-ease-producing energies for and from all of my relations and all my generations. And it asks me to be willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So I agree to that, take a breath, and then I breathe as I release and surrender myself, my emotion of rage, my trigger, 1C, my person, that my mind is telling me is creating my rage, my story about how she's challenging something I did in my business, my thoughts that she's nitpicking and doesn't trust me, and my punishment thought of wanting to shut her out. And I surrender all of that to the energy of love and creation. And then I take a breath. And then I come up with my goal. Here's the thing my mind is telling me has to happen in order for my rage to be quenched. Sue needs to trust me and appreciate all that I do. So that was the goal I came up with after some sorting out of various goals. That was in alignment. If Sue would trust me and appreciate all that I do, I wouldn't be feeling rage. She wouldn't have sent me that email. I wouldn't have the thought that she's nitpicking and doesn't trust me. So then there's a release I'm asked to read. I cancel my need to be right and make up another story out of these brain cells to hallucinate proof that my fear and hostility-based story, that my reality is true. So I breathe through that, put a check mark there. And then I moved to step 4, and step 4 was very easy for me last night. This intense, violent negative response within me. So I got to the office, and I did a round or two of tapping, and I formulated my response for this.
So the words, but that's good. Thank you for catching that. It's the words. So if somebody else
says
the
meaning
words,
yeah.
The
it's
meaning
the meaning that you
put,
have in your mind for those words.
Right, which is why somebody can say something that doesn't trigger me with a certain feeling, but it does somebody else. So again, depending upon their path.
The words don't have meaning. Right. The words don't have any meaning. Yeah. Only the brain cells of the person receiving the vibration that they're calling a word carries the meaning.
So when Dr. Ryce talks about the words, how language, it can just change a whole country's perception, thinking of the whole Holocaust thing. The words that are ingrained and told you over and over and over again, then in our childhood too, we've taken on and made it our inside job when all along it was just words. Sometimes things seem so simple and then we make it harder.
Right. Well, that's what our entire culture does.
Yes.
And so every time you find a teaching that makes it a little bit more simple and gives you a tool that you can apply reliably to make a change, it's worth its weight in platinum and gold and silver all combined.
Absolutely. So, and it doesn't matter whenever we catch it. It's like, I was looking at the word revelation earlier when I was writing some notes I'd written, and it was like from a...
Ask it to. It's your internal guidance system. It's your insight. It's your intuition. It's your connection to the divine. It's whatever you want to call it. I invite Ruka to incline me toward healing, to restore me to my newborn essence of love, to heal my denial and my capacity to generate my emotion of rage, and to help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied and dissociated parts of my carbon-based memory that had been projected into my mind's image of Sue. So then we stepped into the forgiveness pattern, which is available on the website at mindshiftersacademy.org under the Educational Materials tab. And I do a little meditation where I close my eyes. I choose to put my hand over my heart space, and I repeat. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel my goal in this worksheet. I put my conscious, logical mind on the shelf, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually responsible for the rage that I'm experiencing. And I just breathed, and I trusted that anything that came to mind, any sight, any sound, any smell, any thought, any emotion, any physical sensation, any image from the past would somehow be relevant, would somehow be what my mind knows I need to get in touch with to heal here and move forward. And I breathed in. Before I even got there, I realized that when I set the goal, to trust me and appreciate all I do, it had echoes to my ex-wife. And my experience with my ex-wife was that soon after we were married, it seemed almost nothing I did was good enough for her. So there was that tie-in to appreciate all I do. The next thing is when I did this release and I kept repeating, I cancel my need to be right and I ask to be shown, I flashed on an image of myself at 9 or 10 years old, and I had been so distraught by the pattern in my family, a very loving, very wonderful family, but, kids are kids, and I was about a whole head taller than my brother and more than a head or two taller than my two sisters. And so I would get picked on by all three siblings, and they would, throw things at me or hit me or in our usual play games. And it would hurt, and I would take it and take it and take it until I would blow up. But they would only do that to me when they knew Mom or Dad was around, and they would go running to Mom or Dad, and then I would get in trouble for being aggressive towards them. This pattern had progressed to the point where the thing that flashed into my mind was I had written a note and run away from home. A goodbye, cruel world kind of a note, and I ran away from home. Because I was that kind of kid who always wanted to please people and wanted to be a good person and wanted to be trusted. When I said, hey, look, my sister is hitting me, my brother's hitting me, they won't leave me alone, and I would not get believed because I was so much bigger, it was always me being the aggressor and hurting people. So that flashed on my mind, and I had some tears come up, and I felt sadness. So I made some notes about that. I made notes about running away and leaving a note and feeling the deep sadness and how I was running away at 9 or 10 years old because I wasn't appreciated for who I was and I wasn't being believed. So I'd shifted from an 8 out of 10 rage to a sadness that was probably a 4 out of 10 sadness. And then the worksheet asks me to commit to love, to living a human life, and to help achieve this, I do a mass canceling of all the times I've wanted this goal from anybody, all the times I've wanted somebody to trust me and appreciate all I do. So I did that. I took a breath, put a check mark in that box, sat with it for a moment or two. It didn't seem to be a big shift or anything going on, but I gave it a moment or two, and then I moved to number 7 in the worksheet, which is, it reads, a principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. I should back up and say that in 6C, the worksheet asks me to ask to be shown a time when I have not fulfilled trusting people and appreciating what they do. So I wrote that in there and gave myself a moment or two to think about it. A couple different instances flashed in my mind, and that's something that I can do worksheets on in the future if I so choose. And then number 7 reads that a principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. It reads, I am grateful for this opportunity to heal, and I'm going to choose truth with a capital T, meaning I want to choose to see life as it actually is, and I'm going to choose perfect love, which means I'm going to choose to continue to set the filter over intentions to love and the filter over perception to love in my mind, and I'm committing to do that. And then it says, to Sue, my trigger in this worksheet, number 1C, Sue, I structure a truly loving goal towards you, and I'm going to offer 2 more worksheets, one on the sadness from the age 10 that came up in this worksheet, that incident in age 10 when I ran away from home, and one on the anger that I felt, which is another worksheet that came to mind when I realized that I actually had made a minor error, and that's what prompted Sue to write me the email. So I was angry at myself for making the mistake, and that's another worksheet I can do. And as I do that and return by removing more of the sadness from when I was age 10 and more of the anger at myself, which is covering up a pain, a fear, or a sadness about myself making a mistake, the more I do that, the more I'm going to be able to stay in the energy of love and extend that to everyone in my life, including Sue, who's the one who sent me the email to begin with. So I rated my upset level at the end of the worksheet as a 4 out of 10 because the sadness was still up, and I put a check mark that it was a successful worksheet, and that was the end of that. So there's an example. Here's a moderately successful psychologist on a weekend, reads an email, and is triggered to rage. And fortunately, I've had access to these tools for over 17 years and seen the benefits of them, so I knew instantly that my rage was not about the email, and it wasn't about the mistake I'd made, and it wasn't about the person sending me the email. The rage is an echo of something in the past. And as one of my bottom line observations spells out for me, if I have a negative thought about myself or someone else, or a negative emotion active in my system, I can instantly know 3 things. The first one is it's an old tape playing. The second one is it's based in a lie or a falsehood. And the third one is if I take an action from it, I'm going to make my life situation worse right now. So it's an old tape playing mean I'm not upset about what's going on in the moment. In the present moment, if I'm alive and I'm awake and I'm active and alert, the present moment acts on me and I respond. I don't have negative emotions come up if I'm in the moment, in now, in awake and aware. So when I have a negative thought recurring or a negative emotion, I know this is an old tape playing. This is about something from my past that I have locked away and said, Tim, you can't handle this, and it's getting resonated. And so it feels like a pain or a fear or a sadness that I don't want to deal with, and so I generate the rage, as Michael Ryce would call it now, the drug of rage to numb myself from that pain or fear or sadness. Well, oddly enough, here's a psychologist in his 60s, in his own home, completely safe, opens his phone, looks at an email, and has rage come up. Well, if you're a sane human being and you understand that rage is only a valid response for a life-threatening situation to trigger that fight or flight response that might help me run or fight for my life, and you see me, in my 60s, in my safe, comfortable home, all of a sudden flying into a rage, it's not about what's going on in the moment. There's nothing life-threatening about my situation, nothing in that moment threatening anyone I love. So the rage is a completely unproductive and unreasonable response to whatever's going on, reading an email or spilling coffee grounds or whatever. So we can instantly know those 3 things. It's not about the present moment, it's based in a lie, and it's an old tape playing. And if I act from it, I'm just going to make my life situation worse. Fortunately, we have the worksheet process. And I could have, if I didn't have, things going on the weekend, I could have pulled up my phone in that very moment and done the worksheet. But I chose to use my time differently over the weekend, and I waited until the group last night to do the worksheet. It's perfectly okay. I still remember what happened. I still can get the insights I need. I can still remove the pain, the fear, and the sadness from when I was 10 or 11 years old or 9 years old. I can still put myself in a better situation to respond with respect and compassion to both myself and anybody who sends me the next email pointing out a mistake I made. So that's what we're offering. Access to these tools, access to the support group twice a week to get the community support in learning how to use these tools or actively using them at deeper levels. And that's what I've got to offer for today. Our call-in number is 999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Or if you're in the chat room, you can type a question and we'll do our best to discuss it with you. What's on your mind? I'll tell you something that's on my mind is that I am about 4.5 hours away from finishing listening to the book Mad in America, and the author, Robert Whitaker, has agreed to let me interview him tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to that and to being able to share either a summary of that with you, this audience, or maybe as an actual replay of the interview once it's done and edited. It's really, as I've worked through that book, really helped me question a lot of what I've done in my career. Some of it, I'm very glad I did what I did, and other parts of it, I wonder if I could have done it better. And I wonder if there's some things for me to step into moving forward that would be more beneficial for the people I work with. So it's one of the things that I was gifted by my father and my mother both. They were lifelong learners. And so that's part of the legacy I've been living into, is that I keep learning. I keep reading. I keep going to trainings. I keep asking for support from people that I think are doing something better than I am, or maybe have more experience in it. And while I do that on a regular basis and I recommend it to people, I also recommend on a regular basis that we actively spend time every day scanning our minds for the trap of putting people on a pedestal and thinking that someone is better than we are or has more value than we do simply because they might have some behaviors or traits or skills that they do better than we do. And you know, one of the biggest benefits of doing therapy work for over 47 years now is that I get it demonstrated for me on a daily basis that we're all the same. It doesn't matter how much money is in the bank account, whether it's negative or it's in the hundreds or thousands or millions or billions. It doesn't matter. People are just people. And so one of the biggest glitches in our current society is the glorification of certain people over others, whether it's the Olympic athletes or the people with the bigger bank accounts or the people with whatever style of body is in vogue right now, and they have, something that's closer to the ideal body image. Idealization of a person, any other person, is an attack on actuality, it's an attack on yourself, and it's an attack on every other person. Even the person that you're idealizing, it's an attack on them. And I've had a couple different situations arise already this week that really drive that point home. If you like what a teacher is saying or doing, please understand that teacher is just a person. And it's wonderful to get tapped into the teaching. It's wonderful to be able to use that teaching in your life, and it's an absolute curse and a trap to think that because that teacher has access to that knowledge or that wisdom, that he, she, or they are better than you in any way. And every person has basically the same range of emotions and the same pitfalls, whether it's jealousy or insecurity or, anger issues or over-identification with their ego, their image of themselves. Every person has this. And so, I remember when I was going into college, I still believed that if somebody made it to be a college professor, they must really know what they're doing. They must know what they're doing in every aspect of life. And I remained that naive all the way through college, despite that I ran into numerous examples of how that wasn't true. I simply logged it in my brain as, well, these are the exceptions to the rule. And then I went on to graduate school. About 5 years after I graduated college, I decided to go back to school for a doctorate in clinical psychology. And so I went back to graduate school. And again, I was still operating under this false belief that if somebody was a professor at a graduate school, if they were a psychologist, they must have cleared up all of their garbage. They must be a near-perfect human being. They must be somebody who I should listen to and emulate practically everything they say and do. Now, in graduate school is where they broke me. In graduate school is where they taught me, you know what, Tim? We're all the same. Because in graduate school, there were no less than 3, maybe more, professors that I had in my time there who had literally psychotic breaks. Now, this is not even talking about the people who had personality problems, who weren't very nice people. They were either full of themselves in ego, and there was lots of that, almost to a pathological level. But there were at least 3 professors while I was there, and several students who were having active psychotic episodes. Now, by psychotic episode, I mean they could not tell the difference between the thought processes and images their mind was showing them and what the external world would agree on. So, they were either literally seeing things that no one else could see or hearing things that no one else could hear, or they were literally believing completely false paranoid delusional statements that people were out to get them or that the world was about to end or something like that. So that's what I mean by psychotic break. They were no longer able to tell the difference between the very unproductive thoughts in their head and the kinds of thoughts and images and sounds that other people could agree on and actually see. So in that process, I learned really hard lessons at times that we're all the same. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how famous you are. One of the things that almost every person, and Krishnamurti in his writings was the one who helped me see this in the mid-'80s, early 80s, almost every person you run into is busy having a relationship with their fantasy about you, and they are not in a relationship with you. I'll say it again. It is far more common than not that human beings in our culture, in our world, are actively having a relationship with their fantasy about you and about themselves. So much so that they are not available for a relationship with you. Now, what's the classic example of this? Pen pals who fall in love. What's the modern day example of this is people instant messaging or emailing on the internet and being in love. I remember one woman came to me and she said, I am so creeped out. I got 1 or 2 messages from this guy on social media, and they sounded very nice, and then he saw my picture, and it started going like he wants to marry me. And he said something like, I'm breathing you. And the woman just got completely creeped out because she was healthier than that, and she realized she didn't know him and he didn't know her. Another classic example is I didn't even start counting because I knew it was ridiculous, but I couldn't even begin to estimate how many people have come to our Tuesday support group when we used to meet in person, and routinely new people would show up, and some would be neutral and some would be, this isn't for me. But every once in a while we'd have somebody who shows up and says, oh my gosh, I love this stuff. You guys are like, you're my family. I'm going to come back here every Tuesday for the rest of my life. It was so predictable that without fail, every single person who said that was destined to drop out within weeks. They were having a relationship with the fantasy in their head, not with the actual process of the group or the people in the room. So, how can we work with that? Well, we have to develop vigilance. Michael Ryce would say we have to have a persistent, consistent vigilance for the application of these tools, and we have to have a persistent and consistent vigilance for monitoring our own internal process. When I feel loving, gushing, cherishing, exciting, sensual, sexy, creative, vibrant responses in me, and I think it's being caused by someone or something outside of me, that's a lie. And in that moment, I could recognize the alarm bells going off. Oh, Tim, you're having a fantasy about this person, and you're relating to the fantasy, and you're missing who the person is. Another classic example just washed into my brain. I went to a training, and I had asked a friend of mine to go. I knew that she would really like it. So we went to this training, and we came back, and she came to have lunch with me a day or two later, and she said, oh my God, did you see that one woman? I love her. I just want to hang out with her all the time. Imagine that. Here's a grown woman, a therapist in her own right, probably had, I don't know, maybe 20-some years of experience at that point in time doing therapy, and she literally had a crush, not a romantic type crush, but this friend type crush. She wanted to have this person as her friend and hang out with her and have this friend like her, and she was turning herself inside out and upside down mentally and emotionally after just maybe a total of an hour and a half, 2 hours of direct interaction with this woman. The rest of it was in the 2-day workshop. She just watched her from around the room, watched as she interacted with other people, and she created this fantasy that that person is going to be one of her best friends, that they're going to be like sisters, they're going to be soulmates. So please be on the lookout. We all do this. Our culture has trained us to do this. Everything about our television, our movies, most of our books, the advertisements of billboards has us idealizing people, idolizing people, and training us without our awareness to have a relationship with our fantasy about this person and to attribute any good or bad feelings that we experience in a cause and effect relationship with the people and things outside of us. And the core of the work we do in the Mind Shifters radio and in the support groups, the core of the work is based on the recognition that everything I experience emotionally is an inside job. Even when I'm feeling really, really good, I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling cherishing another person. I'm feeling, erotic and sensual. It's being caused inside me. The person in front of me is just the recipient of the energy that comes from me pouring my mind energy into the fantasy of me and that other person. And as Michael Ryce talks about, we're trained to mistake love, which is this energy that we are and our essence. We're trained to mistake that for approval. And so went throwing waste paper to where the wastebasket used to be. How long I was on autopilot for the location of the wastebasket. That habit was so strong in me, the muscle memory, right, the thought process. Oh, here I am. I'm sitting here, and now I have a piece of paper in my hand that needs...
Right?
Yes. Go for it. That's it.
Okay. So anyway, I feel changes going on, a lot of changes. I hope you like this particular person I'm going to send you. She talks about your work in a very similar way. She talks about
cool.
you can't just do breathing exercises to calm your sympathetic nervous system. That's like a tsunami coming to the beach, and you trying to breathe it to stop it or something. You've got to be with it as it comes to the beach.
Really effective tools available for us to dismantle that process when it happens. And give us a call. Press 1 and let's have a conversation. What's on your mind? What's been triggered by what I've brought up so far? What's an example of in your life of somebody that you idolized or fell in love with, and then the shine wore off the rose, and all of a sudden you couldn't believe that you'd gotten into the friendship or the love relationship with that person? Or it happens all the time. Area code 760, you're in the air. Who do we have?
Hey, this is Ann in Florida.
Hello, Ann.
Well, I approve of your sharing your worksheet or wake-up sheet, as I like to call them, today. That was phenomenal. I haven't been on the show in a while, so it was just perfect timing for me. And just the whole thing of also sharing about, be careful of that trap of putting people on a pedestal. And I want to say, even relating to my own family members, I think, right, it can happen as well.
Anybody.
Yes. So, and I like, before I didn't hear it, and maybe you haven't used it before, but the word approval versus, I love you or I love it. And I was just not too long ago thinking of, do I really love it, the thing? No, it's just something that helps trigger the joy or, excitement or enthusiasm in me. So I guess you could sort of, apply it to things as well, or events, person,
Absolutely.
places, or things.
Right.
Okay.
That the core of the understanding is that when you feel something inside of you, you feel good, you feel bad,
Yeah.
You feel tight, you feel tense, you feel happy, you feel sad, you're creating that inside of you. No thing has created that. How many people got all revved up and saved their money and bought the car of their dreams and felt the excitement for a day or two or a week or two, and then pretty soon they were getting in their car going to work and all of the buzz is worn off? It's not the thing. The car is still the same car. The
Right.
buzz is an internal creation. It's an emotional experience, and we create those inside of us.
So then wouldn't it be the same? I was trying to relate it to what happened to me this morning. Hadn't been sitting down at the piano for quite a while, and I had almost learned to get this one piece done. It's a little classical piece that a piano coach was working with me a long time ago, and then all life happened, and then I put it on the, back burner. Anyway, about a week ago, I started sitting down and just, doing some songs that I already knew and re-practicing those and saying, okay, amazing. It reminds me of how the brain cells still hold on to that, even though it's been months, or one time it was a year. Anyway, and when I got to the third verse of this song, it was Come Thou Almighty King. Anyway, it triggered, and so that's why I'm going to the thing. Playing it, just my inside, the warmth and the goosebump kind of stuff feeling came. And so when I was reflecting this later, when I started writing in my journal, which I hadn't done for a while, and this prompted it, triggered it, I go, okay. So as you're talking, I'm going, is it the piano that did it? No. Is it the music that did it? Is it my singing that did it? No, it was already in there. Just that quiet time, alone time, and the words. It was, for eternity, love and adore. And I've played that song over and over for the last week.
Not the words.
Okay, yeah.
What you made them mean.
Right. Okay, got it.
It's the interpretation that you place on the words or the person or the event that has the resonance with other energies stored in you, meanings stored in you, traumas and emotions stored in you. It isn't the outside event that triggers anything. It's your interpretation of that. And your interpretation of it is what's resonating the connection with these emotions you experience or these traumas that you're holding on to, etc. It is 100% an inside job. And if you choose a different interpretation, you have a different response.
Right.
There's a part in the book. Wait. There's a part in the book, Michael Ryce's Why Again book, where he's talking to Richard, and he says, Richard's all upset because his sister got all this special treatment, and Michael says, well, look at it. Do you love your sister? And Richard says, well, of course I do. All right, so let's look at it this way. There's the very same situation that you were just looking at and having upset because she got the gifts she wanted and you didn't get the gifts you wanted. What if you look at that with the interpretation of, here's your sister who you love, and she just got something she really loves for Christmas. Are you feeling happy for her or not? Just shift the focus away from what I didn't get and how it's not fair to how somebody I love got something that is good for them, that fills them up, and his emotions change in the moment. And we can all do this. We can all try this. When I change the interpretation that I've created and placed on these thoughts, actions, people, or events, the impact on me changes.
Okay, so what I find then for me is that it's easy to look at the physical thing that I can see, but it's harder for when I say words, which kind of plays out how it's been in my life. It's not the hard, tangible thing that I have. The light bulb goes on, and I go, oh, okay, well, that was easy. It's like, you're right. We make it complicated, and sometimes. Well, anyway, I appreciate and approve of your sharing your stuff, and it just helps me to see, as you were saying, that everybody is on the same level.
Catch your breath, but it all worked out all right, and so I hope the
it was a good
interview with Pat Ogden was useful for people, and we'll do more of those if we have to skip another show. And I'll invite you to have a great